Okay, so tonight I'd like to talk about a little issue that we have to be careful with when running our doing our UI and running our smart contracts where you're paying. It's the issue of converting of Wave versus Ether. A user would think in terms of Ethereum, if they're using a smart contract. But here it's the thing you have to realize also is one of the values that's commonly used and this caused some confusion for me when I was writing the smart contract, is way. 1 ether equals this large number of ways. Fortunately, we have the Web3 interface, or API rather. What it lets you do is go to-way and from-way. So if you get your value in as Ether, but you're doing some kind of calculation in way, you can easily convert it, or vice versa. Now, one thing let me go back to the smart contract, and let's see here. Okay. Now that's the wrong thing. That is the stuff we were working on the other night. Let me grab that. Okay. So here is our remix with our smart contract. Notice our smart contract takes in a in the constructor, takes in cost. Now we can assume that the cost is going to be that they're going to be thinking Ether. So you're going to have to make sure that when especially down here, when we actually go to pay down here, that we have everything correct in terms of, are we dealing in Ether or way. So let's deploy this contract, and we're going to have 10 Ether. And didn't like that. Okay. Looks like I don't have enough in this. Well, let's try this one. And okay. So we're let's see. This should not. Let's deploy this. Okay. That was the problem. So we deployed it as this HCB, and now we have to go through the steps. He approves the contract, and 16A approves the contract, and then go back up here. Remember, this is a little, we're gonna see down here, perform service, and okay. So let's see. Who did I? That was my consumer. Let's look at the let's go back here. This is how we can see. From APC. So he is gonna perform the service. And hopefully that worked. So who is it? Okay, we're gonna start over, and because it's a little bit of confusion here, and I thought, well, we have enough ether for him to be the producer. Oh, I know what I was doing wrong. Hang on, I was working on the wrong contract. So let's go back here. So he's going to approve the contract, and now the consumer is going to approve the contract, and now the producer is going to perform the service, and let's go back. The consumer is going to approve the service, and the consumer is then going to pay for the service, which was 10 Wei. So what we have to do here is 10 ether. So we're going to have 10 ether, and let's make sure this works. So what should happen is it should compare the Ethereum to the because we're telling it to put it in as ether. And where is the comparison on this? Well, let's go through it. Pay for service. Yes. And well, that's interesting. So let's look here and see. This is where the confusion comes in. So I have 10. Let's see what happens if I change it to Wei and try it again. And it worked. So it is interpreting this value here that we put in the constructor, is interpreting it as Wei. So that is where you can use the Wei to Ethereum. This is where you can use those methods. So when we go to pay for it and we tell it it's ether, then we need to make sure that this knows that it's Ether. And that's something we're going to have to be concerned about when we write our interface, because if you look here, we had to put, it assumed that what was going in was we thought it was Ethereum. It was treating it as Way because the correct amount is 10. Okay, so it was taking the 10 and converting it to Way automatically, so we would need to convert it back to Ethereum before we put in. Now this is probably this is on the back end, but on this front end, and but that shows this. The fact that we had to play with this a little bit shows why we're going to have to be very careful about what we're getting in and what it thinks it's getting in. If we don't do it that way, we are going to get, it's just not going to work if we try to validate the amount. So hopefully this has been instructive. The reason I presented this is exactly what you saw there, that there is some confusion between Way and Ethereum when we're trying to compare things, and when we're trying to see, well, how much do I have versus, how much we're going to have to pay. So that it allows us to verify ahead of time, before it goes to the smart contract, do we have enough Ether to pay for it, and are we paying the right amount? We have to be able to make sure we're comparing apples to apples, Way to Way, and Ethereum to Ethereum, and that's something that is going to be very important in the payment aspect of things. So hopefully this has been helpful. If it has, please give a like. Please subscribe. Please ring the bell to get messages about future videos. Please share it with your friends who might be interested. And I will see you next time.